All right, we're here for another session of Reminiscing with History Makers with Tom Catino from the Atlantic chapter. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
When did you join Apco?
1979.
Describe your agency, position, brief responsibilities, and length of service.
I was with the town of Colony, New York, which is outside of Albany, the state capital. When I became a police officer there in 1971, there were 33 officers, and when I left in 1991, there were 112. Our population grew from about 20,000 to 85,000 as it is today. And my predecessor, Lauren Scott, who is a deceased Apco member and was a president of the Atlantic chapter, got me engaged in Apco. And he was the champion of civilianization in our communications staff. And the early days, it was police officers serving on the radio. And through his efforts, we became 38 members strong in a communication records division that then served police, fire, and EMS, not just for our town, but for surrounding agencies also. So it was quite a piece of history, and he introduced me to Apco. My first Apco conference was 1983 in Salt Lake City, Utah. And at that point, I was introduced to Lynn Ford. And she literally took me by the hand and introduced me to people and showed me how to go through the exhibit floor and find my way around that event. And of course, the conference now today has grown at least tenfold, and you can't do all you need to do in the number of days that we are here.
Describe what course drew you to join Apco. What was a particular person influential in getting you to join?
It was definitely Scotty, my predecessor,
Yes.
yes. He had become engaged in Apco only a few years before and found the benefits and immediately saw to it that I was introduced to the organization.
Can you describe your Apco activities at the state chapter and national level during your tenure at Apco? What was your favorite?
Well, I've had the privilege to serve in a lot of capacities in Apco. In my early days in the 1980s, I went through our chapter chairs and concluded as president in 1986. I've chaired several of our chapter conferences. I served as the executive council person for the Atlantic chapter for 6 years. At the international level, I chaired a number of committees and participated in other of the standing committees, and was fortunate to have received 2 presidential awards for events that or task force that I was engaged in. I've been privileged to receive 4 presidential awards in the chapter itself. And being a believer that if you don't think things are quite right, you ought to do something about it, I'm the only one to ever serve a second time full term as chapter president, and that was in 2010, 24 years after the first time. So I began my involvement at that level, and I pretty much ended in my retirement at that level.
Has your Apco membership had a direct effect on your career in public safety communications?
Absolutely. It's always been that I've told others, I've called people from all over the country, not ever having met them, but said, I've heard of you through Apco, and I know you do this well, so help me do it better. And it's always been a huge success.
What do you like most about Apco?
I think the camaraderie. Now that I am retired, I come back to this conference every single year. There are those people that I've known for many, many years that I get to see once a year. And they all function in the same ideal, and that is we're here to help people. So it's just a great group of individuals.
What does Apco do better than anyone else?
I think Apco is broad-based. There are other communications-oriented organizations, but Apco does it all. Technology, frequency advisory, education, training, the shows, and the literature, and the headquarters staff. So they are certainly the premier organization. There are other organizations that I've belonged to at times for purposes, but Apco is the coverall.
What does Apco need to do to move forward and stay current?
That's difficult in today's world. It is so hard to teach the general public how important the public safety providers are. No one goes to bed at night or gets up in the morning wondering, what am I going to do when my life gets in upheaval? And in turn, the answer is they call 911. To some degree, the television and the movies make people think that paramedics jump out of helicopters. And the dispatcher is absolutely the key to that true first responder. And I've always been enamored by some of the creative things that they do on the fly. It's just beyond comprehension what they can think of and what they can make happen in a moment of need.
What stands out as a significant contribution during your time in office?
Oh, I couldn't put my finger on one thing. I think the biggest thing is the people that you deal with. People who are in the public safety industry are not the normal run-of-the-mill. Nobody goes to that job at the lower pay and the lack of respect and still does it as well as they do. There's something inbred in them that make them want to be the providers, the helpers, the ones that someone can turn to. And forever that will be what this organization means to me.
So, what's your favorite Apco memory?
I couldn't, I wish I could. I thought about it, and there's so many that I really can't put my finger on it. Probably my first conference in 1983, the opportunity to go and see the scope of Apco and then know how it's grown and developed into today.
Very good. Well, I thank you so much for your time and for your commitment to this great organization.
Well, you're welcome. It's always my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.